attendance in the command window. Attendance is very low compared to other classes. Even you are marking attendance as command window, we have a report from the Google that how much time you have spent in Google Meet. So we can understand about yourself. So be alert and be present in all classroom from starting to end. Okay, in the last class, we have discussed the fifth module and we have discussed different type of disaster in India. There are 31 disaster as recorded in India as per our records. And the last disaster added to our Indian records are tsunami in 2005. And there are different kinds of disaster. One is natural disaster and other one is man-made disaster. And second one is man-made disaster. So when we are doing legislation in India, which is the second part of our subject. In the first class, we have discussed various disasters, and now we will discuss some legislations or rules and regulations in India regarding disaster management. Okay, 1 minute. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Please respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just changed my position because there are other people also taking online classes. So to get additional benefit when we are speaking something that should be fluently transferred to you. So that's why I have changed my position. That's why I asked whether I am getting internet connectivity or not. I don't know. So thank you for your response. So first of all, we will take India's vulnerability. And whenever we are thinking about India's situation, this is an important term. India's vulnerability to disasters. We have already defined or explained different type of disasters in which earthquakes are there, droughts are there, floods are there, cyclones are there, and these are the major disasters happening in India. And we have 57 land vulnerable to earthquakes. And out of that 57 land, we can have a 12 percentage under severe earthquake zones. So it's a major issue. We should be very careful and we should be very focused to reduce the effect or impact of disaster at these areas. So we should prepare the people who are at the impactable area very well. We should provide them training. We should conduct some mock drill for them. Everything should be done for safeguarding their life as well as property. And second thing is drought. We know that we are having very high temperature in India and our country is very nearer to equatorial line. So This land having a high temperature may cause lack of waterfalls, rain, as well as probability of creating drought disaster. So around 68% land is vulnerable to drought in India. It's a major share. Compared to all other disasters, the chance of drought in India is very high and flood. Obviously, we have faced two flood situation in last 3 years in Kerala. So we are well aware about flood area and effects of flood and impacts of flood. So whenever we are thinking, it's just 12% of India's total area, and 8% land is vulnerable to cyclones. As we know that cyclones are hitting at the eastern side as well as western sides of India, considering Bay of Bengal as well as Arabian Sea, due to change in pressure or vacuum pressure developed inside the sea may cause cyclones, and these will affect at the coastal areas of India and some part of northern India also. These are under 8% only. Comparing with all other disasters, the percentage of cyclones are comparatively less. And apart from natural disasters, some cities in India are also vulnerable to chemical and industrial disaster and man-made disasters. When we are considering an industrial area, we can have very look into Chennai. There are Sicout Industrial Park is there, and uh, different industrial park in Chennai, different industrial park in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Nagpur, Pune. Everywhere there are industrial area. So a lot of industries are focused at a local area. If we consider Visakhapatnam, in the last year, we have an chemical escape from the plant after the opening due to corona pandemic. After the corona pandemic, the company have opened suddenly a lot of gases, chemicals as escaped from the plant, and that made a lot of problem to the surrounding people. And we have road accidents, air accidents, and railway accidents. All are common. And combining all three together, we know that road accident having major share of loss of death and injuries. Now we will look some areas, some graphs of India. You can see a graph here, India's map, in which orange color or red color is shown as flood affecting zone. When you are looking Kerala, you can see that a small areas are considered as flood impactable zones. But in the case of Punjab, Delhi, and Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, etc., there are a lot of places are under the chance of severe flood. Since the Ganga River and Brahmaputra, as well as Sindhu rivers, are flowing through these areas. That may cause rise in water level. Also, the flood at Himalayan rivers are comparatively very high to southern part of India. So this is the flood hazard map of India. And when we are looking to the cyclone hazard map, you can see that the coastal eastern coast having the maximum chance of cyclones, since it's coming under Bay of Bengal. Most vacuums or pressure difference are recorded in the Bay of Bengal nearer to Andaman and Nicobar, are the coast or coastal area, and cyclone attack at the coastal area. And you can see a small part of Kashmir is also under severe cyclone zone because of mountains or Himalayan mountains. And you can see the effect of Lu, the wind, as well as everything in this cyclone hazard map. And when we are looking seismic activity, that is chance of earthquake or movement of earth, everything happens very nearer to top of the India. That is here you can see this is the Indian subcontinent, and here you can see China, Afghanistan, Iran, everything. And we know that in early stage, when Gondwana land hit it with Pandalasa, that's a small Pangaea and Pandalasa, and Eurasia is there. And in the Asian continent, a Gondwana land particle has been hit and formed Himalayan mountain. This is common geological information, and due to that, every time the body is tends to move. We have rule of earth that whenever in a fraction of seconds or considering an year of 50 to 100 years, a fraction displacement is recorded by earth surfaces. So due to that, there will be an hitting of different plateaus which cause seismic activity in India. So when you are looking India under very high seismic motion, and you can see middle part of India is comparatively safe when looking southern part as well as northern part. And you have Non and Bhuj earthquake recorded in Gujarat some years before was a major earthquake tragedy. Normally, these seismic waves are recorded as in scale, which is known as Richter scale. And you can see different values of Richter scale, and star is marked as severe chance. That is, when the Richter scale shows more than 8 means that's a severe earthquake. And severe earthquakes are shown in the figure, and most of that at the joining part of Gondwana land and Eurasia, that is Himalayan mountain area. So this is the seismic activity graph in India, and we must know what are the effects of disaster. We are continuously studying the effects of disaster in previous classes, and we are remembering again and again that this is an important portion, so we must know what are the general effects of disaster. First of all, there is a chance of losing our life, so we should avoid or mitigate the effect of disaster. The injury to us, there will be major injury as well as minor injury. That also will be an effect of disaster. And our property may destructed or damaged due to disaster. If you are a production plant or running an agricultural industry, there is a chance of fall down of loss of all production equipment as well as product plants, as well as that will disturb or disrupt our lifestyle. Our lifestyle will be completely changed. And some people who are working for their livelihood may be affected severely and lose of their livelihood. And we have a chance to lose essential services, medical emergencies, etc., due to severe disaster. That is when a flood coming, there is a chance of isolation of our village may lead to shut all the essential coming to our village. We have seen the same in Idiki, Ernakulam, and Wayanad, and many people were suffered due to this. And also, this will damage our national infrastructure. We have different infrastructure who are building our GDP, national profit, etc. When a disaster occurs, definitely that will damage our national infrastructure too. And disruption of governmental activities also will be there. And we know that whenever a disaster happens in a location, the government agencies are working for the response of the system. And in such case, all government activity will be failed down. You can examine that previous case in the lockdown period or corona pandemic period. All the people who are working with government, even teachers, were allocated for some other duties, which leads to reduction in the effort towards academics. And that's an example, that is disruption of governmental system and loss, economic loss in the national level. As GDP will fall down, automatically our national income and profit will fall down. And also sociological and psychological after effects will be there, since very nearer people of us may be affected or lost their life due to effect of disaster. This may lead to our psychological issues, as well as we will be under heavy depression. These are the main effects of disaster. No? Okay. Now, for that, we are providing some legislations, and one of the major legislation is Disaster Management Act 2005. According to Disaster Management Act 2005, Section 2E, it's very important that majority of people will ask what is the section. So Section 2E is our important part. And according to that, and disaster management means the coordination and integrated process of planning, organization, coordinating, and implementing measures which are necessary to expedite for following factors. We have understood, we have studied everything individually, and we have mentioned what is prevention, why preventions are required. Even prevention is not possible, we have to mitigate that process. If and after mitigating, we need to build capacity. We have to assess that capacity and prepare for the disaster which is going to be happen there. And after that, we have to act promptly at the response and save life from the affected zone. And we have to assess the severity, magnitude, and after effects of all the disasters. And if everything is going well, even though the disaster happens, we need to be prepared and we should act in the evacuation process, rescue process, and relief process. Relief process cannot be done locally. We need to take collaboration with international agencies, non-government agencies, organizations, etc. And we have to make the rehab or reconstruction after the impact of disaster. These are the steps should be focused in a disaster management according to Disaster Management Act 2005, Section 2E of India. And we should give primary responsibility of disaster management uh, to which people, that should be understood by us. Disaster management is the primary responsibility of central government and state government. And we should be very careful while handling such situation in India. When last year, when flood acted, we know that our state government acted accordingly and utilized their full power for the rescue of people. Even though that is not much satisfied, they have taken help from central government, who have allowed them militants as well as medical care whenever required. That's the important thing happened or should be done by the state and central governments. And the major point or major requirement should be provided by the governments are logistical and financial support. The local people may work at the local level as well as with the non-government organizations. They will be lacking a lot of problem for of money as well as logistics. These should be arranged accordingly with the power of central and state government. And when we are considering the central government, when we are giving importance in central government, there will be a disaster management system, and that is under the division of Home Affairs and coordinates the disaster affected state governments. That is, in central government, there is a disaster management division in Home Affairs, Ministry of Home Affairs. So that will help the state government for the effective utilization of funds and capacities. And for that, there will be different institutions that include National Management Authority, NDMA, and National Disaster Response Force, that is NDRF, National Institute for of Disaster Management, that is NIDM, and Directorate of Fire Service, Home Guards, Civil Defense, Armed Forces, and working them for the effective use of disaster risk reduction. These are the important thing should be done by the central as well as state government, and this is the primary objective of these departments. While doing this one, they have to focus on financial as well as logistic support to the local disaster affected zone. That may be state government, so we should work for them. And we should focus on following responsibilities of Disaster Management Division or MHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, are as follows. These are the major responsibility of DM division of MHA. So first one is resource utilization. Whenever we are having a problem, we should be utilize the resources what we are having and how they are acting. Because when a disaster happens and we are waiting for the armed force from the central government, we will lose a lot of life as well as property. So in such situation, we should take the help from local police as well as volunteers, NGOs, and similar people who have worked with the similar conditions who are available with us, the medical team. Everyone should be worked accordingly for the relief and response of national disaster, etc. We should be very careful that drought, a hailstorm, cold and frost wave will not affect suddenly. This will take a lot of time. So we have a lot of time to prepare to overcome these kind of disasters. But when we are considering earthquake, flood, and other such things, we will not get much time. We should act very fastly. And operation of control room and situation reports are very important responsibility of DM division of MHA. Whenever a disaster happens, we should open some control rooms to inform or take information from local people as well as transfer information to the relatives who are staying outside the affected zone. These are the very important responsibilities of DM division. And we should give multi-hazard warning systems. That is, we should provide early warning to the vulnerable communities who are going to affect. So that should be properly maintained. And I'm giving all these notes in your Linway soon. So no need of writing everything, but you should be very careful and look at all the points, because whenever I am explaining, I am giving much importance for the explanation side, even though you are not having grades, different grades for the subject, you should pass at least this examination. And then only you will get the BTech degree certificate. So it's very important examination, and you need to pass this examination by writing regularly. So because when you are writing an examination like DM, you should be very fast in paper. Don't waste your time while you are sitting inside a examination hall. It's a very important warning for you. As we have already mentioned, early warnings are very mandatory. I am giving you an early warning that you should do. And matters related to state disaster response fund and national disaster response fund should be controlled by the disaster management division of MHA. That is, when people require fund from the government during a disaster, every government, state as well as central government, maintains a contingency fund for disaster rescue operations. Even in Kerala, you have non-CM's relief fund. All are made for the efficient act during a disaster. So that controlling is the duty of disaster management division, and also all matters related to disaster response, preparedness, prevention, and mitigation and capacity are should be controlled or documented properly and work for that for mitigating the disaster. Also, the disaster management division should cooperate all international agencies for the effective response at the disaster management side. And post disaster, long rehabilitation and reconstruction are the important duties or responsibilities of a disaster management division of MHL. And we have to give fund or budgeted fund or control the funds towards some institutions like NDMA, NDRF, NIDM agencies who are performing disaster management activities during a disaster. They are act fastly and save a lot of life as well as property during a disaster. And next thing is strengthening of fire and emergency services. If there is a fire, whenever disaster happens, there is a shock wave or sometime earthquake, sometime flood. In every situation, there is a chance of firing. So explosion is there. So to reduce that one, so to minimize or prevent that explosion, we need to strengthen our fire and emergency services. Even in our college, you can see a lot of fire extinguishers as a safety device for the safeguard of people as well as the property of the college. And all matters related to fire service, civil defense, home guard, etc., should be monitored and recorded by the Disaster Management Division. And Administration of Disaster Management Act 2005, which is the logistic or legislation we are having, which is the rules we are having, should be followed. And disaster management division's responsibility to prepare all these activities to prevent disaster risk, as well as provide secretarial support to NAC, HLC, NPDRR, or are different institutional agencies. We will study most of them in the upcoming classes, and we need to give support or secretarial support for those institutions. And there are different kinds of nodal agencies are there in India for disaster management. Whenever we are planning to work on a situation where disaster happens, we are known that disasters are of different kinds. We cannot allocate same people for a floody area as well as cyclone, as well as earthquake, as well as rail accident for an air accident, etc. We cannot use same people because they were specialized in different areas. So we should allocate our work to different people as per the knowledge of people who are acting there. And we should prepare those people and make them to act in a disaster situation. That is, when we are considering floods, we know that floods are common in India. Around 12% of Indian area is under the threat of floods. So in such case, the Ministry of Water Resource will be responsible. In the case of cyclones, Meteorological Department of India will be the responsible person, and earthquake also will be handled by the same people. And epidemics are the coming under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Avian flu is an example of epidemic that's also coming under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And we need to give chemical disaster responsibility to the Environment and Forest Department of India, and Ministry of Labor will be the responsible for industrial disasters, that is man-made disasters, chemical escapement, everything comes under Ministry of Labor. A lot of laborers will lose their life during a disaster in an industry. There is a chance of high death ratio. So we should give importance for those employees or laborers. And rail accidents are coming under Ministry of Railways, and air accident comes under Ministry of Civil Aviation. Fires, fire and emergency are coming under Home Affairs, and nuclear incidents under Atomic Energy Department, as well as mine disaster under Department of Mines. These are the nodal agencies of for the effective working of disaster management or reducing disaster risk. And we have different disaster management policies, plans, and guidelines. And one of the most important things are explained here. First one is first one is Disaster Management Act 2005, which is not mentioned in here. And second one is National Policy on Disaster Management. This is came in 2009, and national action on climate change issued by Ministry of Environment and Forests. Also, drought manual, how to work or act during a drought situation in India, as we have major share of disaster. 82% of Indians, 78 to 80% of disaster or chance of drought disaster in India. So that's comes under MOA and NIDM and issued by MOA. And as well as we have 26 guidelines issued by National Development Disaster Management Authority. And disaster management plan should be there. State and district disaster management plan should be there. When we are considering India, then we have a national plan for India. When we are considering Kerala, with the help of that national plan, we should prepare a state department plan. And from that, we need to prepare a district department plan. Then only we can avoid or mitigate the impact of disaster. This is an important thing. These are the things should be shared here, and hope you have understand most of the things. When they are asking a legislation, you should be very known to the term Disaster Management Act 2005 and National Policy on Disaster Management 2009. These both are the basics for our subject whenever India preparing a national plan. Okay, hope you can follow the subject. If you have any doubts, you can ask anytime, and try to be present in all classes, because we are having very less time for us, and you are already known that our situations are coming bad every day. Most of the pupils are suffering due to epidemics. We have already mentioned disasters, epidemics, etc. So try well, study well, don't lose any subject, because if you lose any subject, that will be an overburden on you. You should pass all the examinations, then only you can overcome this one. If you are here, why rising of hands are there? By Asaf, Fardeen, Lover. Amit, are you telling attendance?
Yes, sir.
Please type your attendance in the command window. No need of raising your hands. and most of the students having less attendance and coming when I am taking the report of this event, I can see how much time you have spent in this classroom. And if you repeat the same, I will not give the attendance for those people. I will read the attendance. Wait. I can read the absentees. 2 absent, 6 absent, 7 absent, 13 absent, 15 absent, 20
13%.
absent, 15 ആണോ?
13.
13%. 20 absent, 22 absent, 25 absent, 24 absent.
24 ഉണ്ട്.
Okay, okay. Then I will read again. 2 absent, 6 absent, 7 absent, 15 absent, 20 absent, 22 absent. Okay. Thank you for listening to the class. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.